Welcome back to Limitless and Unfiltered. My name is Miranda Carmo. I'm one of your co-hosts. We are here with Jenny Kramer, my other co-host, but today we have a special guest, and it's our first guest, and I'm so freaking excited. It is my friend Michelle Moniz, and I'm not going to do too much of an intro for her because I'm going to allow her to take the mic and take the lead on that. What I do have to say is that she is a phenomenal person, and if you ever want to know what the definition of a friend is, Michelle Moniz is definitely the staple for that. I'm proud to have her in my life. So, Michelle, I'm going to let you take the lead. Tell us a little bit about you, about what makes Michelle Michelle, and then we'll get into lots of questions. We have a little bit of an interview style for you today.
All right, thanks, Maria. All right, so my name's Michelle. I am married to Maria's best friend, Brock.
Debatable.
Yeah,
Debatable.
yeah. I am a kindergarten teacher. It is my 5th year in kindergarten, my 9th year teaching. I have my undergraduate in child and youth studies. I went to school for early childhood education. I did my teacher's college, and then that's just kind of my education background. I am a lifelong Disney lover.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, huge Disney fan. I have transferred that to my children, thank God, so they help advocate for me every year with getting Brock on board. I have known my husband now since December of 2012, so it's been a long time. Yes, and I've
And
known
how did you
Maria
guys meet? How did you guys meet?
at a bar.
Oh, classic.
Actually, it was a funny story. My best friend from Mohawk College, when I was doing my early childhood education, Sergio, he was messaging me and telling me to come out because everyone from his work was going out to this small little pub on Hess. Everyone, if you're from Hamilton, you know Hess.
Yes. Which one was it?
Hush.
Oh, yeah, of
Yep.
course.
Yeah, so tiny little space. And he's like, just come out. It'll be fun, casual, no big deal. You don't have to dress up like those other bars. So I was in my pajamas and I was like, you know what? I really don't want to go out, but I need to. I need to socialize. So I decided to get ready. I went out and I was hanging out with my buddy Sergio and all of his coworkers from a restaurant called Mexican.
Okay.
They were a lot older. They were a great time. And I happened to meet actually Brock's friend first. And then I met Brock later that night, and we were dancing, and some like salsa type music came on, which
Oh.
Maria knows I can't dance. I have no rhythm whatsoever. I have 2 left feet. But my husband can, and he was jokingly fed up with the fact that I couldn't dance, but my buddy Sergio could. And so he left me to go dance with Sergio that night. They were salsa dancing together. Yeah, that's my husband's personality. But that's what made me fall in love with him, actually. I was like, he looks like he can have a good time and he can be funny and friendly, and which he definitely is. So that's how I met him. And I swear I'd never, ever give out my real name or my phone number to anyone I met in a bar. You know, safety reasons.
Of course.
But just something about him, I was like, no, I gotta get to know this guy.
Like, that's
Yeah.
the one.
Yeah. I, honestly, from like that day, I was like, there's something different about him.
Yeah.
And we both actually just came out of relationships and we didn't want anything new, but it just happens.
When
The
you
universe.
expect it, right?
Yeah. We ended up knowing a lot of people in common, so I think that's what kind of solidified it. I was like, okay, you're normal. You know some people I know.
Well, oh, debatable.
Yes, very. I learned that later on. But yeah, so I've known Brock for forever. We dated for like 6-7 years before we finally got engaged in Disney.
Oh,
And then,
love that.
Yeah, it was but in front of Beast Castle.
Cute.
Yeah. way in
And
the
so
back.
have you taken the kids yet?
Twice.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah, we went. Actually, I got really lucky. So we went 2 years ago. We did the gender reveal for my daughter there, which was a lot of fun. And then we went last year because I was on maternity leave. I took advantage. My birthday is December 8th, and my son's is December 14th. So we made the trip to go from the 7th to the 15th. So we were there for both our birthdays. Yeah.
Special.
Yeah.
So
I hope
special.
he doesn't expect that every year.
Oh, well.
Well, he's already asking. He's like, when can we go see Mickey? I'm like, we need to save for it. He's like, you can have my piggy bank, mommy. You can have everything in there. It's full.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so cute. My heart.
Yeah. So I've transferred my love for Disney onto at least my first child. Still working on Lily.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah. But yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. So tell us a little bit about what your relationship was with Brock. Like, how was it? You know, the ups and downs of a relationship before finally committing to being together forever.
Actually, so when we met at the bar, we had our first date like 3 days later. And it was funny. It was supposed to, we both didn't want to go on the date. We actually both were like trying to slip out of it. I was working. I got out of work at like 8:30 at night. And then he worked construction. It was like a Wednesday night, so he really didn't want to go. We ended up both pushing through, and we talked about it later how we both really didn't want to go on this date. But we sat there talking for like 4 hours straight, and then just out of Tim Hortons. And then it was like a week later, we decided to hang out again. It was my birthday. And then a couple days after that, we started hanging out every single day for the next 2 years.
Wow.
Every single day I saw him.
So
It was
inseparable.
we became inseparable, like right from the beginning. And it was one of those, like, I don't know if you've ever been in one of those relationships where it's like, I've seen you like 3 days in a row. I need a break. It wasn't like that. And that's kind of how I knew. I was like, okay, I don't need a break from you. Like, I actually enjoy your presence, and I kind of need you there for everything. You're like the first person I want to talk to in the morning. And then, like, if anything crazy happens today, good, bad, silly, I need to tell you right away. So that's kind of where it was like, even he would message me every day. He'll probably hate me for saying all this. He used to tell me how much he's like, this is crazy. I've never felt this way with anyone. I don't know if he was just trying to, like, you know, hook, line, sinker, but he would say these things, and then he'd be like, he felt the same way with, like, being inseparable. He's like, I want to see you today. I haven't seen you all day. And I was like, well, you're getting home. It's like 8 o'clock at night. He goes, I don't care. He's like, I need to see you. So we hung out every day for like at least a minimum 2 years straight before we actually had, like, where he went away for a weekend. And it was because he went away for a weekend. That's why we didn't see each other. So it was one of those, like, kind of whirlwind relationships, but, like, you just knew that you felt just right. And honestly, like, for years, we never had a fight. Like, when we finally did, it was more of like an argument. And I was like, okay, but we can talk this through. It's, you're being, even though we were young, we were early 20s, it's like, you're being an adult about this, where I can't say the same about others that I've dated, where it's just...
We can all say that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's all our story.
I was gonna say, you could blast us, I don't care. But it's true, like, back when we were like 18 years old, you would have an argument, it would always blow up, where we could talk through it.
Yeah.
I remember having friends ask me, like, what do you guys fight about? And I was like, nothing.
Nothing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we just connect so well. So we were together from we met 2012. We had been together, and we got engaged in 2017. So it took a few years. Many years. But as soon as we booked our Disney trip, he's like, yeah, I got to do it there. So it's kind of like, our relationship was so easygoing. Like, I took on his hobbies. So my husband's a hunter and a fisherman, like, huge. Not so much anymore now that we had kids. He does go, but not as often. And so I was like, okay, if I want to still see you all the time, I got to try this. Hunting was hard, emotionally.
Yeah. I don't know if you do that. Like, you're pretty brave.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm an animal lover.
I am too, and that's why, actually, I was with him when we got our first deer together. Obviously, we were together, and I cried. I was crying. Like, I was actually, like, not to say I was excited, but, like, the adrenaline's going, and we were like, you had to follow the deer, the blood trail, and then I saw the deer there, and I just started sobbing, and I was like, I feel so bad.
I know.
But we eat the meat, like, it filled our freezer. So I'm like, what's the difference between us doing that or going to a grocery store? I was like, we eat meat. It's meat. It's fresh. Like, it's the best kind of meat you can get.
you're going back to your primal days. You know, that's exactly what humans used to do. So
Exactly. Actually, we used to always joke. I was like, when I got to know what he was like, I was like, great, if there's ever a zombie apocalypse, I've got someone that's going to feed me. He's got fish. He's got meat. We're good. But, yeah, so I took on his hobbies. We both had a love for soccer. I remember Maria and your mom and maybe Louise came to one of our soccer games. One of our first few. Actually, I don't even know if you knew, but my ex was on that team.
I did not know that. That's hilarious.
Yeah. It was like one season, and he was on. It was really awkward. But yeah, you came...
Yeah, that's the type of friendship that Brock and I had. Is I would go to his soccer games and totally chirp him the entire time. You know, that was fun.
Yeah, I remember your mom being there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Michelle, what's your background?
Like not ethnic,
Yes,
like culture.
yeah.
I'm Italian and French Canadian.
Okay, and then Brock is...
Portuguese.
Oh my God, my husband's Portuguese. Yeah. The Portuguese and the soccer. I'm sure your husband's watching 3 o'clock today. Portugal, Spain.
Yeah. Yes, we are.
And Andre's already requested the nachos, because every time Brock watches Portugal, I make nachos, so he's already requested it.
Good boy. He's
Amazing. Amazing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, Loud House, Italians and Portuguese.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Loud
my
House.
goodness.
Yeah. So I met Michelle. When did I meet you?
It was pretty quick. I know
Yeah.
it's definitely way after your birthday.
Yeah. I mean,
feel
I think
like
it must have been like 2012, the same time. 2012 or
no, it would have been in 2013 because I met him
Yeah,
at the end of 2012. But
that's
yeah,
right.
basically the beginning of 2013
Yeah.
sometime.
So I remember asking Brock because I had seen a picture that Michelle had tagged him in Facebook because Facebook was back
Yeah.
then, right? And like I've known Brock since high school. Like wherever Brock was in high school, I was in high school. It was like my brother, right? And he became really close to my brother as well. And so, they played soccer. I definitely did not play soccer with them because absolutely not. Michelle can tell you why, because she got injured by my brother. So there's
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks,
Thanks,
Manny.
Manny. Yeah. But anyways, I met Michelle shortly after they started dating, and I remember asking Brock when I saw these pictures, I'm like, "Excuse me, who is this?" And he, like, I had met his other girlfriends before, and none of them liked me, and I didn't like any of them. But with Michelle, he like went flush red. Sorry, Brock, we're literally
Throw him under the bus. It's
we're
okay.
Yeah,
gonna we're gonna
call him
talk about
out.
you a little bit. Yeah. He went red like I've never seen him go red before. And he tried to play it off like, "Oh no, it's just a friend." And I'm like, well,
They were
my
a
girl
little.
intuition is telling me
Those
that's not
pictures
just a
didn't
friend.
tell that.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to go there, Michelle, but now that you went there, I'm
Yeah.
like, the pictures don't say friendship, Brock. I'm like, and like, I'm your friend, and that's something's up there. He would just like, it was different. It was like his eyes were glistening in a different way. And I know it sounds weird to say that, but like, I knew Brock for so long that I was like, something's up with this. And then shortly after, I met Michelle. And I actually think I met you like properly. We all hung out at like this train place, this heritage place, and her best friend was there,
The
and she
ice
was
cream. Was it the
yeah,
ice
the ice
cream?
cream, yeah.
Ice
And
cream
her best
thing?
friend was there, and Tara and I were friends, but like
Yeah.
at the time we were not friends. And I remember we met up and like, oh, I'm seeing Brock. I was with my mom and my little brother, and I'm like, hey, Brock, and I like hugged him. And Tara comes over and she literally put her finger on my shoulder and she was like, "Who are you?" Like
Oh,
so protective of Michelle, and I was like,
Oh
"Oh
yeah.
no!" Like what's going on? Now we're all friends. Now we're literally all
That's
good friends. So
now that you know her, that's her personality.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah, and I
We've
love
been
it.
best friends for
So
like 25, 26 years.
so it's funny because we got like all of our friends to meet each other closely, and then it's just been history from there. And I know you said at the beginning, Michelle, that Brock was my best friend and that's how we kind of met. But like, I have said this before, I will burn my guy friends now for their wives. So sorry,
Yeah.
Brock.
Sorry, Dave.
you're out.
Brock.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay. Beautiful.
Actually,
Okay.
I feel like there was, I don't know if I had met you yet, and you were asking Brock for some relationship advice.
Oh yeah. I
And
don't think we had met yet. Yeah.
I don't think we did. And it was funny because Maria didn't know until after I was the one replying on Brock's behalf. I was giving her advice.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I remember saying like, oh, thank you so much. And I pretended I was Brock and I was like, because he's like, what do I say to this? How do I help him? I was like, give me the phone.
Yeah.
so was this about Maria's husband?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, it was. Hey Juan, what's up?
Sorry, what?
Yeah. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was pissing me off during one part of our dating experience. And so I reached out to like who was closest to me other than my brothers. Because your brothers or your family members are going to
Yeah, it's
obviously have your
different.
back, right? Yeah. So I was like, who's next in line where can give me some like real advice without like sugarcoating it? And I was like, Brock, listen, this
Yeah.
is what's going on. What do I do? I did after analyzing those texts, I was like, wow, he was really eloquent when he spoke to me. I thought it's not
Probably
really
some
Brock.
good grammar too in there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
got a shit together.
Yeah.
And then I realized it was Michelle after. I was like, oh, of course it was a girl.
Yeah.
That's why you got
That was a
really
mistake.
good advice.
Yeah, excellent. Beautiful. All right, Michelle. So let's switch gears a little bit here. I want to talk about obviously our kids now are best friends. They actually call each other cousins. And my
Yeah.
daughter always asks me, like, oh, when are we seeing Andre? In fact, my kids actually have an obsession with Andre. Andre's Michelle's first.
Yeah.
And everything, like, it's funny because my son, whatever he's doing, he's like, oh, I did it with Andre. And like we see each other almost every day in the summertime, obviously because we're all out of school and can get together. But throughout the rest of the year, obviously everyone's doing their thing. And like Michelle and I live pretty far from each other, but my kids just love Andre so much, and it's because of just the character that he has. So I want to get into your pregnancy with Andre and your journey with finding out that you were going to be a mom, because I know that it was beautiful to have that journey together
Yes.
without knowing it, and we both told each other in such a special way. And so kind of share how your pregnancy with Andre went and what that did for you.
Okay, so shortly after getting married in August of 2018, we had the talk. I've always known that I wanted kids. Actually, on our very first date, that Tim Hortons date I was telling you about, one of the conversations we had is, do you want kids? How many? Brock said he only wanted one, maybe two, and I always said I want four. I'm one of four, so I'm like, I always wanted I said I would settle for 3. So 3 is me settling. But I've always wanted 4. I know I'm jumping the gun here, but as soon as Andre was birthed, literally the first thing he said to me was, I want 4 babies.
Oh.
Because at first he was on the fence, and I go, maybe 2, but I said 2 is my bare minimum. Yeah, and then he right away, he goes, yep, I want 4 of these. He goes, or more. It's like,
Of these things.
settle down. But yeah, so we started talking just after our wedding, and it was about January. So January of 2019 that we agreed, let's start trying. And so again, there's a lot of science into this that I did not know with my first, and I'll get into it with my second on everything that I found out. But, you know, science and health class in high school just tell you, you do it once, there's a very good chance you're going to get pregnant, and that's a lie. That is a huge lie. So we tried. January didn't work, and I tried a few cycles. I think it was my 4th cycle I got pregnant, and I beyond ecstatic. And at the time, I actually thought it was difficult. I was like, wow, that took way too long, and I was worried, like, oh, like maybe something was wrong. But you know what? Okay, I'm blessed. I'm pregnant after my 4th cycle of trying.
And this was natural, right?
This was natural. On that 4th cycle, I had used ovulation strips. I started to learn more about how it actually works and everything that you kind of need in order for it to be successful. So I started with ovulation strips, and I swore up and down about these things. When my friends at school, like when I told my school friends, like my colleagues, that I was pregnant, I actually had one come up to me and say, listen, we've been trying, but we're struggling. Can you give me advice? And I was like, these ovulation test strips, like godsend. And it did work for her. And I kind of cursed them when I was trying for my second. It didn't work as well. I honestly think Brock and I call it our miracle baby. And so I got pregnant with Andre. Pregnancy went well. Actually, in my first ultrasound, they told me I had a heart-shaped uterus. They told me I had a bicornea. Later on, I find out I actually don't. But so they were just concerned about the pregnancy, and they just kept monitoring me. So the best part was, like, every 2 weeks, starting around week 28, every 2 weeks I got to have an ultrasound. So I loved that because I got to see him all the time. It was actually kind of sad when I was going with Lily. I think I had like 2 or 3, and I was like, that's it? I don't get to see her anymore. But yeah, so that pregnancy, I got pregnant very easy, and I was actually really excited to tell everybody. And Maria at the time used to do my lashes. So I remember I told Brock, I was like, hey, I'm going to get my lashes done. You need to call Maria while I'm doing it and tell her. So he kept calling. I can't remember if I didn't hear my phone, but then he called Maria, I think. And she's like, uh-oh, why is Brock calling me?
Yeah, I'm like, Michelle, hold on. I'm like, hold on, there must be an emergency. Like, he never calls me in the middle of the day. Like, what's going on?
And I think he was at work too. I made him like stop work just to call Maria to tell her. And so I had my eyes, like, I don't know if you've ever had your lashes done, but they were stuck closed.
Yeah.
And I could hear her on the phone, and I'm just smiling, and Brock just blunt, Michelle's pregnant.
Yeah.
And I didn't know whether to tell her or not. I was like, is this guy just telling me because he's excited? And I'm like, I'm not supposed to know. So I'm sitting there with Michelle's eyes closed. I have the phone up in my ear. I'm listening to him, and I'm like, do I tell her? Like, I'm like, am I allowed to tell her? And he was like, well, yeah, she knows. And I'm like,
of course she knows.
Of course she knows. I'm like, does she know that I know? And all this like whispering, because she was like laying down, but then I saw her smirking, and I lost my mind.
Yeah, that was fun. And then a few months later, we got to share it together.
Yeah,
that was with Veronica. I think it was like 3 months later. Like we were only 3 months apart.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was exciting. But yeah, so Andre's pregnancy went easy. He went almost full term, 38 weeks, 6 days.
Okay.
Pregnancy was great. Maria was a trooper with her husband sitting in that waiting room. She actually was outside the hospital room waiting the whole time.
Oh, that's so lovely.
Yeah. And then she was one of the first to hold the baby. Baby Andre.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. I'm sorry if this gets too much for this podcast.
There's nothing.
I'll never forget. We're still in the labor and delivery room. Like they have cleaned me up and everything. So everyone was in, my dad, my mom, I think Maria, Juan, my stepmom, and Brock. And they're all holding the baby, and Maria and Juan are kind of standing to my side. And I just remember yelling, like, I'm going to throw up. And I threw up right next to them. And I looked at Maria because she's heavily pregnant. I'm like, I'm sorry. Please don't let this scare you. Yeah. I'll never forget that. I felt so bad. I'm like, oh, I hope this doesn't terrify her.
No.
You were so good to have so many people in the room with you. Like, I didn't want anyone near me.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I was like, ugh.
Oh, I was ecstatic. It's funny because after having my first, there was like so many things where I'm like, oh, I should have done this. Not take away the people. I actually was totally fine with people. But like I never did chest to chest. They actually didn't put the baby on my breast right away.
Oh.
And when I went up to the room later, it was like 3 hours later, they were like, okay, so how did the first breastfeeding go? And I go, I haven't fed him yet.
Oh,
And they were like, oh, and they like shoved him on. They're like, he needs to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess, but I think it was because I did the cord blood kit where
oh,
they
I
took,
did that too.
yeah, so I think what happened was the doctors and the nurses, they took over that. And then they gave me the interns that were just kind of finishing up with the placenta and everything
Yeah.
and doing the messy stuff. They took over that. So I think they just weren't as focused on making sure I had all those little things.
I know you briefly just brought up the cord blood kit, but I don't know if you want to just go into that real quick, just because it was something I was super fascinated with and
Yes.
decided to do, even though, it is quite pricey, but yeah, if you want to chat about that, that's probably
Yeah.
great for any new moms
Yeah.
to look into.
So actually, my best friend was my boss. One thing I never mentioned is I was a bartender for like 15, 16 years.
Where?
All over. I started my waitressing journey at Wimpy's Breakfast Diner when I was like 16.
Wimpy's, love
Yes,
Wimpy's.
oh, so good. Then I worked for a few years bartending at Krabby Joe's, like waitressing and bartending. And then from there, I had like a couple little small ones that I just never really liked. It was like a few months at one place. I worked like a season at another local place in Winona. And then I had a friend that told me about this hockey rink. And I was like, a hockey rink? Like, I'm not going to make much money there. Like, how exciting is this going to be? Honestly, it was my favorite place to ever work. I worked there 9 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was the best. Because the guys play every week, they become your best friends. Like, I still talk to some of them. I still buy my cars off of one of them, Dougie. Thanks,
I
Doug.
love that.
Yeah, like, so that job was amazing, but the best part was, for most of that, my best friend was my boss. And so we worked together twice a week. She was the one who actually talked to me about the cord blood. And it was before I was even pregnant. She did it with her son, and turns out her son is autistic. He is higher functioning, but she was telling me a story, like, she came in the next day and she's like, oh my gosh, her son didn't sleep. I remember he got maybe 2-3 hours of sleep a night and he was fine. Like, that was how he functioned. So she barely functioned. And she said her mom was texting her in the middle of the night, was like, look at this news article. And it was about an autistic child who the family used the cord blood tissue and whatever else they had, and they were able to reverse some of the effects of it. So
Wow.
in the news article, it was like the children were nonverbal and were slowly becoming verbal. Like, so
Wow.
they still obviously had those symptoms and everything, but it was able to help them in other ways. She didn't want to do it. Her son was high functioning. He's fine. She's like, I love him the way he is. But I thought that was so interesting. So then when I got pregnant, she convinced me actually to like do my research. And I did. And the things that it can do,
It's crazy.
like, I've seen it help with so many different like diseases. It helps rebuild like bone marrow or something like that. I remember like reading, I'm like, for my kids, Maria knows me, I love to play soccer, like we mentioned, and I have fractured and torn so many ligaments, and I've hurt a lot of bones. And then I read something about how it helps like rebuild that kind of stuff, and I was like, if my kids are anything like me, they might need this, because I'm still dealing with an injury from over a decade ago. But honestly, it's more of the bigger ones. Like, I think it was like MS that it can help with, like
Heart disease,
Yes.
diabetes, all those.
yeah. So for us, when I introduced it, like, and I did my research and then I showed my husband, and he even said, he's like, honestly, I'd feel guilty not getting it. Because if I was sitting in a doctor's office, they're like, did you collect the blood tissue and the cord and all that? And he was to say no, he goes, I'd feel so bad.
Yeah.
So he decided, we decided, we're like, you know what, we'll do it. And the benefit is it does actually help the siblings too. So
And yourself.
so immediate family, so the parents and any siblings can use it. So we did it with my first son, and we did it with my daughter too. I'm not 100% if we're gonna do it with this one, just because I was like, we do have 2 samples in there already, because it can help. We'll see, because it is very expensive. Like, the upfront cost is like almost $2,000.
Woo.
And then because we did the blood and the tissue, because you have the option of doing one or both, it's like $300 on their birthday, due on their birthday. So I'm like, that's already $600 every year. So I can see why a lot of people, it's more of a
Financial.
more difficult.
thing.
Yeah.
It is. It's huge. But we decided, because we thought it would be like, it's a good safety net for the kids. We told them, like, okay, on like your 18th or 20th birthday, if you want to take it over, go for it. But you've kind of made it this far, I think you'll be all right.
Yeah.
But you never know down the line. But we'll tell them, like, you could take it over if you want to keep it. See,
Yeah.
I don't know, we'll get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we decided to do it for the 2, because for us, it was
Peace of mind.
it is a peace of mind. Just knowing if anything major does come up, there's a chance And the downfall is sometimes you can find out that it won't work. So even though you do have it, there is that chance that your blood tissue, like the way they collected it, might not work. So that's also the downfall. But
Yeah.
yeah.
But you're right. It is a safety net, right? A little bit of a peace of mind of hopefully you never have to use it, right?
Yes.
That's the whole goal. Hopefully you never have to use it, but if you do, it's there, right, as an
Yeah.
option. So yeah, I love that.
And with
Yeah.
science, right? Science these days, like
It's crazy.
anything is possible, right? So looking back to when you first became a mother, what has surprised you the most in your journey of motherhood?
There's a lot there's still stuff that still surprises me.
Yeah.
Like even in
Every day you wake up with
Yes.
a new challenge.
Yep. The fact that they tried to hurt themselves on a daily basis, like
Yes.
that was
Please
it-
stop.
like, you know what, like, okay, okay, put the covers in like the little outlets, put up the baby gates, and you think life is great
Yeah.
until you have a boy.
Oh, yeah.
Life is not good. I literally, actually, the other day, Mommy, come here, come here. Andre's calling me. I'm making dinner. I go, what? I go over there. He's doing a headstand on the top of my couch into the corner of the wall. Mommy, look at me. I'm watching TV upside down. I was like, can we not? Please?
Yeah.
Please? No ER visits today? So I have to say that's always been one where it's like the things they do where it's like you're constantly on like a watch on these kids to make sure they don't get hurt.
Yep.
They don't off
Yep.
themselves every day. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
There's that. The other one I would say that's more specific to like when you first have a baby, the lifestyle change, how difficult everything can now be. Not in a bad way. Like I would never change it. I would never give it up in a heartbeat. But just like your life changes. Your friendships might change. You might, like, your friends that don't have kids don't understand things. It's funny when you get advice from them and then they have kids. And then
Tell
you
us
watch
how
them
you
being
really
spoiled
feel,
for-
please.
Really, tell
how
us.
you really feel, Michelle.
Yeah. Yep. I'll never forget my best friend who's probably going to watch this. The one we've been talking about. Tara, who told me, my kids, they're never going to watch TV until like they're over 2 years old. You should ask who helped raise her kids. Mind you, in all fairness for Tara, she had twins.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
Poor
Miss
girl.
Rachel's a
Bless
godsend.
her. Yeah. Well, bless her, my lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
not
a
easy.
journey.
Yeah. But I would say like the way your life changes in a good way, but also the like there's like almost everything is a difficulty and a learning curve. Like every little thing you do, like I decided to breastfeed and I was absolutely like determined to make it at least a year, and I did, thank God. But like even like those tiny little things that's new to you, like you have to learn. And honestly, as bad as it is, like I was Googling, even though you really shouldn't. You should. Not that it's bad. Like you'll find some good advice, but unless you know what you're looking for to find out is it good advice or bad advice. Like breastfeeding was a huge journey. It was very difficult and it's not meant for everybody. It really isn't. I was blessed with an oversupply. The only downfall was I did deal with a lot of things like mastitis and clogged ducts often.
Oh, gee.
So it was just, it's all those little new things that you have to learn. And then even when you have another kid, like I found I had to relearn it. Like I forgot some things. Mind you, there's a big age gap. Well, 4 years? There's a 4-year difference. But it's just like, I don't know. Like I had to relearn how to do some things. Where I was like, I felt like, oh, I'll know what I'm doing. I've already had a kid. Nope.
Yeah, and it's crazy that you say that because it's so true, and I think a lot of moms will resonate with that, especially first-time moms, because we give ourselves no grace when we are a first-time
No.
mom, and we're always like, why isn't this working for me? Like I should know what I'm doing, or like the frustration sets in with what you said. It's so true. You are literally learning everything. So yes, you have a baby that you have to now take care of, but everything is new for both of you.
Yeah.
And should it get better child after child? Yeah, there's some things that you kind of remember, but it is a learning curve with every single child that you have.
Yes.
So it's giving yourself the grace as a mom to be like, I can Google everything and I can ask around, but your experience with your child is always going to feel new. And that's challenging.
Yes.
Each child is different too, right? Different personalities, different needs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Honestly, like if any new moms are listening, do yourself a favor and give yourself that grace that Maria was saying. Understand you can't do it all and there's no way you're going to know everything. I breastfed Audrey for 13 months, and when I gave birth to my daughter, they had come in, okay, you're going to breastfeed. Do you know what you're doing? Like a lactation consultant. Like they'd asked, have you done this before? And I said, yeah. And they said, for how long? I said 13 months. And they were like, oh, okay, so you're a pro. That didn't stop me from going to see a lactation consultant once a week for about 2 to 3 months. Like I still needed support. Every child's different. Like Unfortunately, my kids have had tongue ties and lip ties. So like there's trying to navigate that. Just everything kind of changes with each kid. And even though, yeah, technically I probably should be somewhat of an expert at this point, 13 months with my son, 12 months with my daughter, with this next baby, I guarantee you I'll be at a lactation consultant again. And
But
Why not?
why not, right?
yeah,
Because it's a part of the process and it's covered. It comes
yeah,
with the OHIP, right? So why not take advantage of that extra education and care?
yeah.
Absolutely.
And there's honestly, even I went to a lactation consultant with my son. I went and saw a different one this time. I can't even remember who I saw at the beginning, but each one, like the advice that they give and the things you learn, there's a vast knowledge that they can't all always share with you. So it's nice getting different expertise from different
Totally.
people.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
yeah.
Question about one thing you just mentioned about tongue ties and lip ties. You or your husband, did you guys ever have that as kids?
I actually had asked my parents. My mom's like, oh, I don't think you ever had that. Like, she didn't remember. I'm wondering if back then maybe it wasn't so prominent to know. I have no idea. I can't really talk
Okay.
for that generation.
Yeah.
But I know for sure that my mom didn't know if we did.
Okay.
Because she would always say, she's like, sorry, my cat again. She's like, I didn't know about that back then. Like, we didn't do that. I'm going back to 1900s that like a lot of those young kids like to say.
1900s.
Yeah. My oldest brother's from the 70s, early 70s, and I'm the end of the 80s. So back then in that time frame, I guess like she wasn't aware of it. It wasn't something that often was talked about.
Yeah.
I
And your
don't know
husband?
I don't know if he did or if she knew about it. But it was never brought up that he like, oh, you had that as a kid.
Because sometimes it can be hereditary.
I
Yeah.
did hear that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, my son had a really bad anterior and posterior tongue tie, so he could barely move his tongue at all. That was excruciating. So he got his fixed like within 2 days of leaving the hospital because he couldn't drink. He
And
struggled.
latch. Yeah. Poor guy.
My daughter wasn't as bad. She had a tongue tie and the upper lip tie.
Yeah.
So poor girl.
Luckily, with technology, that's such a fast
Easy,
procedure,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Very
Well, my son's was traumatizing. It was like the
Yeah.
only one local with OHIP covered, so I just did it. But it was like they took a clean, straight razor blade and just went.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, why? We're in an age where they could just laser that, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
so then I had no idea. Sorry, Kaya. So I had no idea. And then with my daughter, I did know better. And they have the laser one, so it cauterizes it at the same time. Looks
Yeah.
terrible.
I
Yeah.
know.
Black.
Like burnt.
Yeah, it was like black. I felt so bad. But yeah, it like because I actually messaged my her physiotherapist. My little girl had a physio. Both my kids actually had physio because with the tongue tie, it's very closely like there's a correlation between tongue ties and what's it called? It's where their neck gets stuck to one side.
torticollis.
Torticollis, that's it. So my
Interesting.
son had bad torticollis. He was stuck on one side. He was starting to slowly get like the flat skull. So he went to physio, but his tongue tie was a lot worse. My daughter had it, but she definitely favored a side, but she wasn't as bad. And I just took her to physio. I'm like,
Yeah, and it
let's
helps.
do these exercises. Let's get ahead of it.
Yeah.
And she was phenomenal because when they did cauterize it, I guess her gland started swelling underneath. And I think I was even texting Maria, my dental expert, and I messaged her and then I messaged my physiotherapist and I was like, what should I do? It turns out she was on vacation and she was still responding to my message.
Oh my goodness.
great-
Yeah, she was being fabulous. She's like, send me a picture. And then she sent it to her friend, but everything was good. The cauterizing is much better.
And then for your son with like the skull issue, did he ever end up having to wear a helmet? I only ask because our little guy just graduated from wearing his helmet on Friday. Yeah. So did he ever have to go that far to get one?
No, he didn't. So we did get lucky that way because what actually happened was it was less than a week. He was less than a week old. We were in the hospital. Well, he might have been over. He was in the hospital for 5 days when he was born. And it was like the week after I gave birth. So he must have been a week old. I went to see the lactation consultant at the hospital. And she was the one who kind of said, listen, I noticed he's like, when I would try to switch breasts, he would struggle because he had to turn his neck. And she goes, this lady was actually here recently. It was the physiotherapist who mentioned the correlation between torticollis and tongue ties. And she's like, here's her brochure if you want to go see her. She brought it up and I instantly called Carrie and right away she saw him and was like, yep, he's got a really bad, like he could go fully this way to like here and that was it. He couldn't turn to his other side.
See, this is great information for anyone listening on this because, like, who would know the correlation of tongue tied to, neck movement and placement, right?
Yeah. It was, and for him, it affected his feeding. So I think I actually had mastitis early on, and I think that was why, because he would really only take to one breast. He struggled to go to the
Yeah.
other, but that was probably why. Um, that was interesting, actually. I didn't know I had mastitis. Like, I probably should have been in the hospital. I was like nauseous, hot, like I was falling
Yep.
asleep at the table. Like, it was
Oh my
really bad.
God.
And I,
What did you have to do in order to bypass those symptoms?
so for that specific event, it was probably within like again, he was only like a week or so old, like 2 weeks old. I was going out for dinner. My mom took us out for dinner that day just because I was exhausted. She's like, let's go out. And I said to my husband, I'm like, funny enough, I'm hungry, but I am beyond nauseous right now. I'm like, I feel weird. I feel hot. I remember actually being like, my breast felt like it was on fire. And I was like, he's driving. I'm like, feel this. I'm like, this doesn't feel right. But I was like, maybe I need to feed him. So when we got to the restaurant, I quickly fed him, and I was like, nope, that didn't help. And I was falling asleep at the table in the restaurant. Like, I had my head down. Like, I thought I had the flu, which I honestly was like, oh, I'm getting flu symptoms, like the back aches, the pains, all that. So that one, I didn't go to a doctor. It was when I saw my lactation consultant like a week later
You
that
waited.
that I mentioned something. I think I had a clogged duct when I went to go see her. And then I told her, and she goes, yes, if you ever get burning breast, if you ever feel nauseous, if you ever get like all these symptoms, she's like, you need to go see someone right away. You need antibiotics. And I was like, oh, I had that last week.
Yeah.
And she was like, and what did you do? I was like, nothing. I didn't know. I was getting sore breasts, obviously, because they're clogged. So I was constantly pumping and feeding. Like, I just, mind you, my
Try to get
son
it out.
he ate like every hour and a half. Like, he never went 2 to 3 hours, even through the night, till he was like 1 years old. That kid eat, and he still eats.
Yep.
Eater. Yeah, that was a good indication. But yeah, so I think he helped just kind of get it out. But I got lucky. The next few times I've had mastitis, because I had it about 2-3 times with my son, and I had it 4 times with my daughter. There was only one time out of all of those that I got the antibiotics.
Wow, so your body's pretty,
Strong.
yeah, very tough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was able to kind of work those things out on its own. I mean, painful, but there was only one with my daughter where I was like, I feel like I'm dying. I need
Yeah.
something. And so they gave me, like, I don't even think I saw. No, I did see my doctor quickly, and he goes, yep, you've got it. Here's the drugs.
Yeah. And you know what? Your body did do a one hell of a job getting rid of it or like pushing through it, because mastitis, for those of you who don't know, can get really, really bad to the point where it actually surfaces on your skin and can cause an open sore, oozing, like
Yeah.
it will burst. So it is a dangerous thing to go through as a
Yeah.
mom. And again, if you're new and don't know any of this, like how would you even prepare yourself for that? But it can get really, really serious. So Michelle, your body is definitely like it knows what it's doing, but for a lot of moms, like that can get really, really bad
Yeah.
and ugly.
Which is why I'd almost recommend every mom who plans on breastfeeding, go see a lactation consultant,
Yes.
whether you're having difficulty or not. Like I said with my daughter, like she wasn't really having difficulty, but I was like, I want to see one. I want help. I want to make sure she's latching properly, which she was, but wasn't at the same time. Her upper lip would always get caught, and I'd constantly flip it. Turns out she had the lip tie. So it was
Yeah.
good that I went to see one. But honestly, just learning that, because like I said, I didn't know I had mastitis. I didn't even know that had to do with my breast.
Yeah.
I thought I just wasn't feeling good. I thought I was getting sick.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
again, educate.
That's it. Okay,
Yeah.
Michelle, now we're going to pivot just a tad here. Can you take us back to like the moment that you realized that your growing family, right? Because you knew you wanted more kids.
Yeah.
The moment you realized that that wasn't going to be easy the second time around, and what was your journey like with your second pregnancy?
So funny enough, like I said, we knew we're having 3 or 4. As soon as my son was born, my husband was on board. Andre was about 8 or 9 months old. I had done the math. I needed to work 600 hours to get my mat leave again. And I was like, I'm ready to try as soon as we can. I think he was about 8 months old when we could start trying. And so I was so excited because I'm like, great, hopefully I'm going back to work pregnant. And we started trying August to December. I want to say around December, I was like really using these LH strips and HCG strips that I was getting off of Amazon, because the clear blue started to get very expensive when it wasn't working the first cycle, which is what I said. I
Yep.
praised that with my son, and I realized it's not that easy. There's a lot more to it. And around December, I was getting frustrated which is sad, which is crazy because in the long run, once you know how long it took, I thought December, I'm like, wow, this is getting really long. It should be my turn anytime. January, February, and I was like, okay. Starting to take a little bit longer. I think it was around April that I called my doctor and I was like, all right, I think I may have lied. April, May. It might have been around May. And I was like, we've been trying for almost a year now because we have to wait a year before we can go see fertility. And I was like, I wanted the ball rolling. Now, funny enough, my sister had told me, my sister also struggled to get pregnant. So what I had is hereditary. And she had told me from a young age, I think I was like 16, she was like, you need to talk to the doctor because what I had, they told me, like, is hereditary. Mom would have passed it down to me, which means she could have passed it down to you. So she's like, get it looked at. So when you are ready to have kids, you'll know what to do. Because she also struggled and had to go through, I don't think she went through fertility, but she was going through an OB to like help her out.
And what was, do you mind mentioning what it was?
Yeah, so it was the heart-shaped uterus.
Okay.
My sister swears hers is a bicornuate.
Mm-hmm.
I was told that with my son that it was bicornuate. And I might be saying it wrong. Sorry if there's any medical people here.
Fine.
And mine ended up being septate, which is basically the material in your nose, your septum.
Yeah.
Mine was filled 95% of the way, which is a lot larger than most. I remember them saying the average is like 1.2 millimeters, I think it is, or centimeters. And they said that's normal. Mine was like 3.6.
Wow.
Yeah, so I had a lot. But it wasn't until I went to the fertility clinic that they did like an internal 3D ultrasound to figure out
What was going on?
But yeah, to go back, my doctor got me in with the fertility clinic, but this was 2021 when this all
COVID.
happened. Yeah. So everything took a lot longer. And I didn't get to talk to the fertility clinic until October. And we had been trying the whole time. Like, we were trying everything. I mean, every wives' tale I tried. I
I remember.
Mucinex. Like, I literally tried everything I read online on these get pregnant groups. I was like, I gotta try this. This didn't work. I gotta try this. This didn't work. I was like, what the hell? Why isn't any of this working? Like, not even like I hate to say, but not even like a positive going to a chemical pregnancy. Because I was like, at least there, it's like, okay, something's happening, but it's not sticking. Like, what can we do different? Maybe our diet, which plays a huge role, which I learned. So then I started the fertility clinic. I talked to them in October and I had told them I have a bicornuate uterus. And she goes, I don't think you do. And I was like, but I'm like, I've had many ultrasounds. They've all said you have a bicornuate. And she goes, it is the most misdiagnosed like problem that people come in here saying they have a heart-shaped uterus and they don't. She goes, most of the time it's septate or septate, whatever I say, just know that.
Yeah.
And they said it's actually easy to fix. Bicornuate, it's very difficult and they don't often do it. So she goes, if it's the other thing, that's great. It's a quick surgery. So I did the painful procedure to see if it is by putting the balloon in and doing the ultrasound and everything.
Ugh.
Yeah, it was absolutely excruciating. The worst part was my uterus was so bad. Little TMI. So they had the balloon in there and they're looking around and they're like, hey, we're going to go to your left side, I think. And they tried to pull it and to go to the other side.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't go. It eventually came out. They had to do it again.
Oh.
Getting it in there was the worst part. She's like, the whole time, she's like, I'm sorry. But it luckily was an easy fix. But again, stupid COVID. I had to wait forever to get into surgery, into a hospital. It was months later. And in the meantime, they actually told us to stop trying. Because during that ultrasound, she actually showed me why we call our son the miracle baby. So when they were in there doing the ultrasound, she goes, you see this little spot of your uterus? And I was like, yeah. And it's on my right side. That's where I had my son, was on the right. So I'll get to that, actually. I was going to change thoughts. Sorry. She was showing me, she goes, you see this little spot? She goes, that's the only spot that has blood flow. She goes, so he had to implant right here or he would never have survived. So I was like, after trying for 4 months, I go, that's crazy that he literally...
That perfect spot.
Right. Yeah. And she even said, she's like, she goes, I never used the word lucky, but that was kind of lucky. And my husband actually bought me a ring, our birthstone, my son and I, because we have both December and it says our miracle baby on it. He gave it to me for Mother's Day. Yeah. So then they actually told me to stop trying because they said you're at a high risk for miscarriage. Like, it's almost going to be impossible for you to carry a baby with the septate uterus. She was shocked. She goes, if I knew that, you would have had not an emergency, but you would have been scheduled C-section. Like, there would be no way we'd let you carry that to term.
Yeah,
so
they're a miracle.
yeah.
He
So, and
chose you.
they were like, no complications, no bleeding, no nothing. I said, no, he was perfectly fine. Thank God I didn't know. I think I would have stressed that whole pregnancy.
Yeah, but at least you were being monitored that entire time with all those
Yes.
ultrasounds, like every 2 weeks.
Yeah, they did say that like that probably helped. And the best part was because of my smaller uterus, like because only one side grew, the other side actually stayed small. So it was kind of cool seeing on the ultrasound like your big uterus with like a little piece of it on the side. I felt everything. I felt my son from 13 weeks. You could see his whole foot push through my belly, so you could see his heel and his little toes. It was the
Oh.
coolest feeling. I actually panicked a lot with my daughter Lily, and I was constantly texting Maria and Maddie, being like, "I'm worried she's not there. She's not moving." And they're like, "Dude, it's like 15 weeks. You're fine."
So was your daughter, was she on the left side or the right side of
So I did have the surgery
Okay,
before
cool.
I was allowed to try again, which kind of sucks. It took like 8, 9 months
To heal?
before I got in. No, to get into the surgery.
Oh,
Because of
wow.
COVID.
Okay.
It took forever to get in for the surgery. By the time I got in, honestly, it was a Friday. By the Saturday, I was at a festival. Quick surgery, in and out. That's why they were like, I'm glad that it's this. It's an easy fix. And they even told me, they're like, don't be shocked if you still see like part of, sorry. They're like, you still see part of like the heart, like the top of it. But they were actually really impressed with the doctor. They said he did wonderful. And my uterus is wide open. It doesn't even look like there's anything ever there.
Amazing.
Amazing.
So I did get blessed. And then once the surgery was done, they cleared me after I had to have one full cycle. And then they were like, "Okay, you can start trying, or we can start with IUIs." And I said, "You know what? I've waited this long." At this point, it had been 2.5 years. So what I thought was going to be easy, I'm like, okay, Andre took about 4 months. And yeah, we tried up until we were told not to because of the high risk of miscarriage. And then I said, no, I'm sick of waiting. Let's do IUIs. Let's make this the best possible chance.
So describe for our audience what IUI stands for.
Oh,
Intrauterine.
intrauterine insemination, I think it's called.
Yes, intrauterine.
Basically, to make
Hold
it
on, hold on. I'm gonna pee myself, so you guys keep talking. You guys talk about this, talk about IUI, and then I shall be back.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So the IUI, in layman's terms, the way I kind of explain it to people when they ask what's the difference between IUI and IVF. IUI is where they take the man's sperm and they basically clean it, and then they take only the strong, essentially, of the semen, and they insert it close to your uterus. So they were like, there's only like a small space that they actually have to swim. So they're right there. So it's easiest for them to get to the egg.
And because I don't know much about IUI, I've heard about people doing it.
Yeah.
Now, is this something because the sperm are lazy?
It can be. So after our surgery, they actually told us you can try naturally, because at this point we've essentially fixed a major problem. You should be able to get pregnant naturally, but we were like, you know what? We've also been waiting forever. Let's just do this.
Right.
But it does help. So you can have misshaped sperm, like different shapes. They could have multiple tails, like, so they're just not the best. They actually encourage, my husband's were fine, but they did encourage him to still take, it was like Fertile Pro Plus for men to help increase number. And I did notice, because his first semen analysis, just to see, because like when I was going for surgery, they just wanted to check make sure everything's fine with him, and everything was. But his first analysis, he had double the amount that he should have. And then when he started on that it's like a vitamin. That's all it is. His numbers went way up.
Okay.
So it did help, and it helps with like, I forget what they call it. There's like shape. There's
Motility, I think,
yeah.
is another one, right?
Yeah, so, and it helps with all of that. So it basically, what they do is they clean it. They make sure they get the best of the best, basically, in a sense, and then they insert that. So it just makes it a lot easier for the sperm and the whole process.
And how many tries of IUI did you have to do in order to get pregnant?
So my first one didn't work. My second one did work. Okay. So on my second IUI, I did get pregnant. On week 6, I was texting Maria and Maddie in a panic. I did start bleeding, and I started bleeding. I went to the hospital with so when you go to the fertility clinic, they monitor you a lot. So you do the insemination, 2 weeks later you go in, blood work, ultrasound, just see how it is. And I was pregnant. Like, I had the positive test. My numbers were low. It was 24 HCG. And they did tell me that's risk for miscarriage, anything under 25, but I still had hope. I was like, maybe we caught it early. Maybe the egg, because just because you ovulated on this day does not mean that you got pregnant on that day.
Right.
It could take up to, like, the semen stays inside you for up to 6 days. So you could get essentially pregnant days later. So I had some hope, and I was like, maybe my numbers will double. So 48 hours later, I got tested again. My numbers were close to doubling, but didn't fully double. Then 48 hours later, again, my numbers went more than double. So I had high hopes. I was like, great, because Maria has a similar story with one of hers, with her numbers not doubling properly. So I had high hopes, and I was like, you know what? My numbers are going up. It eventually doubled. We're fine. But then I started to bleed. They convinced me to go get looked at. Like, I went to the hospital myself. My husband stayed with our son. And they were like, we can't find, like, even at the fertility clinic, they couldn't find the baby in the uterus. And the hospital said, neither can we, but you are only like 6 weeks one day. So they're like, it's still early. Maybe we just don't see it.
Yeah.
So I was supposed to go to the fertility clinic again 48 hours later, but the next morning, like 24 hours later, I should say, I actually woke up in severe pain. Like, I was in the fetal position on the couch. Like, I was in excruciating pain and I couldn't move. And I'm not one to tell my husband to stay home from work, but I looked at him and I was like, I know I have an ultrasound later today, but I think I need to go to the hospital. Like, I am in so much pain.
Yeah.
And he was like getting ready to go to work, and he saw me on the couch. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, I can't move. Like, I literally, like, the pain I was in was worse than, like, labor pains. Like, it was bad. And so I told him, I was like, I think you need to stay home from work. I'm really sorry, which he didn't care. But I was like, I think I need to go. I'm like, but my ultrasound's at 11 at the fertility clinic. Like, I don't want to sit and emerge if I can go there.
For sure.
Yeah, so then I actually waited till the clinic opened at 7, called them, and they're like, the hell are you doing? Go to a hospital. They were like, you more than likely have an ectopic pregnancy, which they did warn me about.
Okay.
They did tell me when they were like, your numbers are low and we can't find it. There's a chance it's in the tubes, but they couldn't find it in the tubes. So they're like, we just unfortunately have to wait for it to grow just a little bit. That's why I was going every 48 hours again, like, just to get checked. And I was like, okay, like, so I went to Emerge. They couldn't find it. They actually ruled out ectopic.
Yeah.
But they didn't even see the baby. Like, they couldn't find it anywhere.
Even at the hospital.
Even at the hospital, like the second time I went to the hospital.
Wow. Okay.
But my numbers were going down. So I knew I was losing it. At this point, I kind of accepted it, but I was just like, what's happening to me?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I have a friend who had an ectopic and lost a tube. So I was worried about that. And even like Maria, I remember Maria was like, Brock, you need to be talking to them because she can lose a tube. And if it bursts inside of you, you can go, what is it, sepsis?
Yeah.
You go to
Yeah.
sepsis and die. Like it was, I remember that scenario, and I remember trying not to freak Michelle out and texting Brock on the side and being like, get your ass to Emerge. Like she needs to be seen. And I was like, I don't think you understand the severity of what's going on. If it is ectopic, like she needs to be seen. People die from this.
Yeah. And I was getting frustrated because we were in the hospital, and like I said, they had done that. And they're like, okay, because you have HCG in your system, one, we can't give you pain meds, which I get the legality of that. Like, even though my numbers are going down, can't give you anything. So I was like, I just want a strong med. Like, I'm in so much pain, I couldn't walk.
Yeah.
But they were like, the only other thing, and maybe it's your appendix, but to do, what is it for appendix? I forget what kind of testing is it?
Oh, the testing? I don't remember.
An MRI? No. They had to do something, but they're like, we can't because you're pregnant. And I was like I was getting frustrated, and we basically left with nothing. Call your doctor, go back to the clinic. So I called the fertility clinic, and I told them they found absolutely nothing. They couldn't see it in the tube. But I'm in so much pain. When I went back to the clinic the next day, they're like, hey, come in tomorrow. We're going to do another ultrasound. They actually had to do something funny. They were like pushing on me, and they're like, now take a deep breath. And I guess what happened was everything moved but the baby. So then they found where it was, and it was like right next to my ovary. That's why no one could find it, because it looked like it was part of my ovary. But they said, when I spoke to the doctor at the clinic after this after my body actually handled it on its. I had no intervention. I didn't have to remove a tube. I didn't have to take any medication, which is good because then you'd have to wait months before you can try again. My body the numbers were going down on its own and handled it on its own. But my doctor's like, I'm glad they didn't find it at the hospital because they would have removed your tube.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
So she's like,
they would have gone right to surgery. Yeah.
Yeah, because of the amount of pain you're in. She goes, if I was that doctor in Emerge and I saw the amount of pain you're in and I found it in your tube, you would have been out because there was a good chance that it would have burst.
Yeah. So in your experience there, Michelle, what was the emotional toll like? Like, obviously not just physically with having gone through IUI multiple times, but like what was your emotional toll like on your mental health, your marriage, like your mindset? Because all through this, you're still having to show up as a mom. So
and a
how did you do
teacher.
that?
I still
And a
went to
Yeah.
teacher.
work.
Yeah. Right.
It was difficult. So like obviously like over the moon ecstatic about finally getting pregnant. Especially because after the first IUI we felt a little discouraged because we were like, all right, IUI, like we got the surgery, like we're gonna get pregnant. And then we didn't. We're like, are you serious? This is still gonna be difficult. So obviously when the second one worked, we're like, thank God, like we're pregnant, this is great. We were ecstatic. So when I started, I think the day that I started bleeding, the first day before the pain is when I kind of already went through my head, even though I was like, hey, it could be nothing. Maybe
Yeah.
like I'll be fine. I think I had already started mentally preparing that no, I'm losing it. And it was rough. It wasn't, I hate to say like I didn't take it as hard as I thought I would. Not to say that it didn't upset me, but I was like in such this like mode of like, let's make a baby that I'm like, all right, if this is the way it is, unfortunately, like I got to get through this because we got to keep trying. So I was trying my best mentally that way. I was home for a few days with the ectopic. So like I kind of had that nice, quiet, peaceful time to myself to kind of
Process.
process what's happening. And I'm like, okay, I am only 6 weeks. So like I didn't get, like I hate to say it because I know that some people this is extremely difficult. But I hate to say like I wasn't fully attached to it yet. Even though you're excited, you're like, I'm getting a baby. You're like, okay. I think if I had my first ultrasound and saw the baby, that would have made it that much more difficult, but I had never seen it. So right from my first ultrasound, finding out I was pregnant, like at the clinic, so it was only 2 weeks post IUI, I already had that mentality of maybe there's not a baby there. So I think for me, it was not necessarily easier because it's still difficult, but I didn't have that little bit of attachment where it's like, oh, there's the baby. Oh, look at the head. Like all that excitement you get when you do your,
Heartbeat.
when you do your 6 week ultrasound and that. But it was still difficult. But being home, honestly, I hate to say it, like my husband is supportive. Like I laid on the couch for most of the time. He made dinner, he would order in, he would sit there with me, and like I would still, like the worst part was being in pain and trying not to show it to my son because at the time he was like 3.5. Or yeah, he was just after he had turned 3, so he was still little. So I'm like still trying to be like, I'd always say like, mommy's not feeling good, baby, and he would lay and like rub my back. That's what I do for him. So he'd just rub my back and he'd be like, are you better, mommy? And I was like, yeah, mommy's feeling a bit better. He's like, hey, can you play?
Oh,
So like I would sit up, I'd like, let's cuddle and watch a movie, which he loved. So I mean, it kind of, I think having a son there really helped because everything I kept saying in my head was, I'm lucky to have one. Like
Oh,
as
that's
hard as this
lovely.
is, at least I have one.
for sure. Like you looked at like the positive aspect to it, right?
Yes.
Like, grateful to at least have the blessing of one child, right?
Yes. Because I would sit there because I have friends that were going through the same thing I was going through that didn't have any kids. So I was always trying to have that mindset like I'm blessed to have my son. So I got to be lucky and I got to be happy and try to portray that even in front of him, even though I wasn't feeling the best.
Right.
I even went to work. That was stupid, but I went to work that week.
yeah, that was
It-
dumb. I remember telling you that.
This all happened on Monday, and Wednesday I had the appointment with the clinic in the afternoon. So I went to work Wednesday morning. So I was like, I might as well work a half day. I had a permanent job, but I was so afraid of like using all my time off because I had so many of these appointments. I didn't want to like use up all my sick days. My administration at work was beyond like I can't even, and it was 2 men. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little sexist when I found out I got changed to that school because I was like, I'm working for a male principal, a male VP. Are they gonna understand my fertility issues and all these appointments I'm gonna be going to? And even though they were before school, there's a chance I'm gonna be late. They were beyond helpful.
That's
And
lovely.
beyond
Love that.
understanding. Like I was so thrown back. Turns out my administration, I think they both had gone through fertility treatments with their kids too.
Oh, there it is.
So, and I
Related.
have to say, so I'm very open, obviously, about talking about my journey. The more you talk about it, it's amazing how many people go through it.
Yes.
Yeah, and people just have like this shame to talk about it, which I think it's like to each their own. I get it. Some people handle things a little bit differently than others, but I find it so important to talk about the struggles because we are all women. We
Yes.
all go through difficult times and very similar journeys, right? So why not talk about it? Why don't we
Normalize it.
just be each other's therapists, right? instead of
Absolutely.
holding it inside and letting that bottle up and eat you alive, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that all has changed through society because
Mhm.
if we go back to our primal days, like we were all a village, and the only way to get through things was to lean on each other in our toughest times. And somewhere in society along the line, we've gotten used to, well, no, I can't talk about it. Let me hide it,
Shows
and let me
weakness.
just if
That's what they
exactly because
think.
it shows a sign of weakness, quote unquote, right? And so that is essentially why we were ecstatic that you wanted to
Yes.
share your journey, because there are so many women suffering in silence, thinking, I can't talk about this because it makes me look less than, and we want to change that narrative for people. So,
Yeah.
we're so grateful that you're talking about all of the
Totally.
things that you're going through, that you went through, because it definitely will resonate with someone who is either gone through it and suffered in silence or currently in that situation.
And that's what, like, because even I would talk about it at school, and I remember someone saying, like, "Oh, you're so open," not in a bad way. They were like, "It's so good that you're so open and willing to talk about it." I go, "But if I don't, who won't? Or who will?" I said,
Yeah.
"If we're all talking about it, then it normalizes it, and it's okay." And like I said, the amount of staff members, male as well, like I said, both my administration and female staff that were like, "Oh, I had to do that," and they did it like 10, 15 years ago, which
Oh
where
yeah.
it was almost like taboo, and
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like, to
Hmm.
accept the help, like the science is there, why not use it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's like the stigmatism in the sense of like, oh, there's something wrong with me or there's something wrong with my husband, and it has nothing to do with that. It's
No.
just it's literally a miracle.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
literally, like,
truly.
I think I remember constantly saying to you guys, it's crazy how much work has to actually go into getting pregnant. It's not just let's have one fun night. Where some people,
So,
it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
You just see that. I'm like, Maria and Juan, just don't look at each other, okay? For some people, they are blessed. It is easy. And for some, it's not. And it's like this whole science has to go behind it, like perfect timing.
Yeah.
Everything has to work out. I did find out through the fertility clinic, I also suffer through PCOS and endometriosis,
okay.
both fighting against me on getting pregnant.
What was the severity of your endometriosis and
They
PCOS?
did tell me it wasn't that severe, but I do have it. Although, like, when I read all the symptoms of PCOS, like the heavy cycles, the extreme pain, the, like, I would have not longer, I like irregular periods. I suffered through all that. I was actually, so Brock was asking me last night, like, oh, like, what's the podcast about? And I told him, and he laughed. He was laughing because he's like, are you going to talk about what I had to do? I'm like, your session in fertility was easy.
You stupid.
You got it easy. You go in there and you feel great when you leave. Other than the
Yeah.
awkwardness, you feel great. I have to do that balloon. I have to do blood work constantly. You're fine. I had to give
Yeah,
myself
settle down. Yeah.
for the IUI every cycle. I had to give myself a needle. Like, you're fine.
Yeah.
So we were talking about it, and then we were talking about, actually he asked me, he goes, what are the symptoms of both PCOS and endometriosis? And we were actually Googling them because I was like, I'm pretty sure it's this. And I was like, it makes so much sense. When I was a kid, and now I said I can actually be aware because now I have my daughter, and I'm going to actually, the next one's a girl too. I can be more aware of how bad it can actually be. Every cycle would be vomiting. I was in so much pain. I'd actually be home from school. And I remember, like, in high school, I would go to the office and say, listen, I'm on my period and it's really bad. And they would look at me like, and go back to class.
Yeah.
And they would call my mom, and my mom would be like, no, hers, like, they're actually bad. And like I said, every cycle I would throw up. Like, it was that much pain. And I have pretty high pain tolerance. And I couldn't, like, every cycle. And I'm like, it's crazy now that I understand it and that I know it. And at least I could be aware for my daughters, because I already told him, I was like, the only thing that helped me back then, actually, which isn't the best for you, is the birth control. That was the only thing that helped me back in the day, because I didn't know why I was experiencing all this, but it did bring the pain down. Although I didn't like the effects of it,
Right.
the birth control in my body, but
Yeah. And
in the long
it's
run.
different for everybody, right? Because for me, birth control almost killed me. So, I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally.
That's what I mean. Like, once I understood more, like, when I got a bit older, actually, it was my first year of dating Brock. And I was like, our first date, I want 4 kids. I'm telling him this. Within months of dating, I said, I want to get off birth control. And I was like, I'm not here to trap you or anything. I was like, but I've noticed such bad negative effects on my body that I need to get my body off this. And I know a lot of people will take birth control and then they'll be like, okay, I want to get pregnant now. We want to try. So I'm going to get off of it right now. And it's like, no, your body needs to, like, cleanse
It
itself
does. Yeah.
before you can actually get pregnant. So, like, that was also
which
partially,
isn't it wild?
Yeah.
Isn't it wild that we're prescribed a medication that for you to do a natural process like trying to get pregnant, you have to detox from that?
Yep.
That's wild.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So after the ectopic pregnancy, how long did you wait to take your next steps, which, landed your beautiful miracle Lily, right?
Yeah, Lily.
Yeah.
Not long. I was
Okay.
determined. So like
Yeah.
I said, I think having that mindset of, okay, like I need to get back on this and I need to try for that baby. Like I want another baby.
Stay
I
focused.
I think that kind of helped me get through that ectopic, and getting pregnant eventually like kind of helped me get past it, because I had to wait for my cycle, which I want to say took like almost 2 months for my body to fully get rid of the ectopic.
Yeah.
And then once you have your cycle, I could try again. Because I didn't have to do any intervention, I didn't have to take the medication, I didn't have to lose a tube or anything like that. They told me you can start trying whenever you want. And I said, I'll call you when I get my period. And so I did. Again, it took 2 more cycles. So the first one, nothing. The second one, I got pregnant with Lily. And I was a little more reserved on being excited. I think
For sure.
actually, I have to say, I think every pregnancy Maria has known before my husband.
Sorry, Brock.
I think I remember texting them, and I was afraid to tell Brock, because when I had the ectopic, I craft. I mean, we're in my crafting room right now, and I made a shirt for my son that said "Big Brother." So when he came home from work one day, I remember he was on the phone and he looked at Andre and he was like, "No, no way!" And then, he was like, "No way!" And he hung up on his friend. And then he was like, well, "You're pregnant." So then I was a little more reserved to tell him the next time. So I was like, I felt like it's kind of weird how I put it all on myself, but every pregnancy, like I never told him if it was negative. Like he would eventually ask, or I'd be like, "Oh, got my period." And he's like, "Okay, so it didn't work," even though I knew it was going to be negative. I didn't want him to have to go through what I was going through, which was the constant like stress, the like feeling upset, the frustration. So unfortunately I took it all on myself. But when I knew I was pregnant, I texted the girls, and then I waited a bit. And I think it was like 2 days before. I think I went and got it cleared at the clinic first. And then I was like, okay, so I'm actually pregnant. It's in the uterus. Now I can tell my
Ready to
husband.
go. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I felt excited, and then it ended up being little Lily.
Oh,
Yeah.
love
So
that.
that whole process, I think, was like, my son was 4. He had just turned 4 when before I gave birth. So it took
And so
like 2 years.
when was Lily born?
January of 2024.
24.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you have some really great news now too.
Yeah. So
Right.
pregnant again. And
Woo.
this time I'm geriatric pregnancy.
Oh, I was geriatric too.
I was like,
I
can
was-
we change this? Like,
It's so
can we-
rude.
There's cancel culture on everything else. Can we cancel the
Yeah.
word geriatric pregnancy?
How old are you?
I'm 35.
Okay, yeah. So I got pregnant at 37, had a baby just before my 38th, and I'm like, how rude to be calling me geriatric.
So rude.
Yeah. Like, okay, I got gray hair, but seriously, like I'm still pretty young. Okay? I
Yeah,
was
like,
can we
chill,
change
everyone.
it to, like, can we cancel it to mature pregnancy, not
Yeah.
geriatric? But I kind of used it to my advantage, because I went to my doctor. I think we had tried twice, maybe 3 cycles.
By
And-
yourself? Like natural?
Yeah, naturally, like we were like, okay, like 'cause
Practicing?
we figured like, okay, with Lily, we probably didn't have to do the IUIs. We probably could have, because we had the surgery, but I was fed up. I was like, I'm sick of waiting. I don't want to do this for 6 months. Like, I want the best shot. If like I said, they put the sperm so close to the egg, like to like where it would go through, that I'm like, I just want to make it as easy as possible. So for this next one, I said, okay, let's try. Let's save some money, because Lily was expensive. Worth every penny, but expensive. And I ended up going to my doctor, and I said, listen, we've been trying for 6 months. Because it's geriatric, that's all you have to wait for a fertility clinic. So then,
crazy.
yeah, so I used that to my advantage. And I found out that I was pregnant on a Thursday, and my appointment for the fertility clinic was on the Monday. So I got really lucky. Found out just before. Again, I actually told Maria and Maddie first. They know, like, as soon as I pee on that stick, I'm sending them pictures. Sorry. They knew for about 5 days before my husband did.
Yeah.
Because I was
And
waiting
so
for
this
like.
was, sorry, this was natural conception. Like,
It was.
no-
We got
oh,
so
wow.
lucky. I say we got lucky. Like, that was easy. So we started trying, I think it was like October, November. And I found out I was pregnant. I don't even know when.
I don't know, but I remember you
I think it was like March.
yeah, somewhere along that. But I remember you being so hesitant
Yes.
on like accepting that there was a line. And I'll tell you right now, there was a line from the first picture she sent us.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you are pregnant. And she was like, no, I don't know. Maybe it's a single line. I'm like,
Denial.
that is a double line. I don't know what you're talking about.
I
But
remember.
I think it comes from your experience, obviously, right?
Yes.
You've like almost numbed yourself in that aspect of like not
Yes.
wanting to get so excited because, what if is always in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
And this is where I say your community matters, because I remember being like, Michelle, snap out of it. Like,
Yeah.
enjoy the process. Like, you're there,
Which is why you girls knew first, because they both were telling me like, nope, you're pregnant. Stop it. You're
Yeah,
pregnant.
stop
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're right. I almost like I wanted it to be real, but I almost needed that ultrasound to show me where the baby was to feel excitement again.
Of course.
And it did take a bit, but it was also like the years of taking tests and they're just always being blatantly negative. And you're just like staring at it, hoping that like maybe there's a faint line. And then I was like, no, I won't believe it until it's like in your face, two double lines.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was a little nervous about this one, but I waited, I think it was like 4 days before I told my husband. I actually signed the baby up for daycare because that's how screwed up our society is.
System?
Before I
Yep.
told my husband I was pregnant. Like, I found out I was pregnant on Thursday. Friday, I had signed him up for daycare, and I told my husband Sunday. Like,
It's amazing.
yeah,
And so what's the due date? And are you having a boy or a girl if you're willing to share?
a girl. We're
Oh,
having another girl. The due date's October 17th this year.
so beautiful.
Yeah. So
that.
they'll be about 21, 22 months apart.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
And then you'll have like a little helper, which is amazing.
Oh, he's so good. He actually, like, every morning, he actually gets mad if I feed Lily.
Oh,
So, yeah, he's like, I wanted to do it. I'm like, buddy, you were sleeping. Like, you were hungry. And he's like,
Yeah.
I want to do it tomorrow. And he doesn't like doing nighttime ones. She's too squirmy.
Oh,
He likes the mornings where she's calm.
oh.
Yeah.
But he's so good. Like, with Lily when she was little, he was too afraid, but he was also just turned 4. And I think now he's 5, like he's 5.5, and he's more confident. He wants to do other things. Like, he's the one to go into her room when she wakes up. Like, he did it this morning. She woke up, had turned the light on. Brock forgot to move the crib. And so Andre went in. He goes and talks with her. He actually takes her sleep sack off on, like, in the crib. He unzips it and pulls the arms down.
That's so sweet.
And then he comes and wakes me up and he's like, Mommy, Lily's awake. I'm like, I know, I'm watching you on the camera. I'm just giving you a moment moment
Yeah.
before I get up. But
yeah.
So sweet.
This is the longest time Marie and I have been chatty Patty for.
I told you, I talk.
No, I love it. I love it. So motherhood comes with its fair share of chaos, as all of us know. What's like one hilarious or unexpected moment from your parenting journey that still makes you kind of laugh or giggle on the side?
Like something that I did that was like kind of silly, or like something my kids do that are funny.
Anything.
Gosh.
Anything. Like what's one thing where you're like, yeah, okay.
Oh my God, I can't even think of anything right now. Like, my son is just ridiculous. So I'm like trying to think, like, he does the most absolutely ridiculous things.
So like, I guess like chaos in the sense of, okay, I remember I'm still a very new mom. My little guy's 7 months, but I know like we finally have gotten into the routine of like he's sleeping through the night and we have his bedtime routine. But like every time I'm carrying him from the bed to the bath, like there's always some chaos that occurs. Like he'll projectile shit on me.
Yeah. Andre's done that.
That's amazing.
Actually, one of the ones that was funny that I remember, Andre was getting in trouble. He was doing something and I was trying to discipline him and he wasn't listening. Lily was like 2 months old and I'm holding her, and sorry if this gets too much. Brock was in the washroom, but I was like, okay. I opened the door and I was like, I need your help. I've had enough. Can you just talk to him? And I was between Andre and I, we were like both frustrated. I'm like, I need a moment. Like if I stay here too much longer, I'm probably going to say something I shouldn't say to my son, like get too angry or something. So I was like, I need you to tag in. Sorry, you're in the bathroom. And it was just this moment of like tension. And Lily projectile vomited on Andre. It cut the tension. Everyone just started laughing, and to the point where Brock goes, so what was the problem? I was like, I don't even know. And Andre was laughing. So to this day, when Andre has picture day, I always ask him, what's the one thing you're going to think of that makes you laugh? And he goes, Lily throwing up on me.
See, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Funny.
I'm like, there's
That's
so
so
many,
funny.
like so many chaotic moments. The one, as soon as you said chaos, though, my first thought was the recent one where we ended up in the hospital, which wasn't a good one. But
Yeah.
Geez.
Yes.
Lily chucked herself. She leaned forward off the counter and fell and hit her head.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, fun.
But she's
I told you,
Portuguese. Got a thick skull.
every single she barely she didn't have a bump.
I know. That's what I'm telling you.
Like, she fell high. Like, even the hospital's like, we have to monitor, and I'm like, she's playing, she's perfectly fine, but that was still scary. But yeah, there's so many of those like moments. Actually, what caused that was because Lily pooped in the bath.
Oh.
Nice. That's great.
I turned around for 1 second.
Yeah, we just
Wow.
had an incident this week. I'll leave it at that. But luckily, our couch isn't too far. Like, it's
No.
not too high of a couch. But our guy did a little like, he's all of a sudden rolling. And he did a little Superman off the couch, landed flat on his back. Luckily, he had his helmet on. But I'm like,
Good.
oh,
Yeah, they'll do that. Yeah, that's normal.
That's what I mean by every single day you're playing and protecting them from hurting themselves.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Like-
maybe we're going to keep that helmet just for emergency purposes.
My son needs one of those. Like
Yeah,
I said,
same with mine.
upside down on the couch, like on a daily basis. Actually, he was trying to reach the strawberries yesterday morning, and I go into the fridge. He goes, I can't reach, Mommy. You have them way at the top where I can't reach. I go to the fridge. The freezer's open. I was like, why is SARS is the one at the bottom? Why
Yeah.
is the freezer open? Oh, I was trying to reach.
We're
Excellent.
getting leverage.
Right? I'm like, first of all, let's not break the expensive freezer. And
Yeah,
let's not
please.
get hurt.
Yeah.
So funny.
That's funny. Okay, Michelle, so thanks so much for being on the show. I'm gonna
Yeah.
try to wrap this up with one last question.
Okay.
And I know you're gonna absolutely kill it. So, and we kind of talked about it already. What do you wish more women would talk about when it comes to fertility, motherhood, and their identity as a whole?
I would have to say accepting the fact that it's not easy,
Yes.
being able to be open and with your struggles. Like I found out through myself later, I apparently had postpartum anxiety after Andre, although I didn't realize it. I didn't realize it in the moment, but just being more open and talking to others, create your village, find those people that you can talk to, whether they're strangers on the internet. Cause I was in this Get Pregnant group. I ended up becoming friends with two moms. One's in Washington and I think the other one's like in Illinois. Made my own little community there too, but just being able to be open and talk about the struggles and not feel ashamed. Because
Love
I
that.
can guarantee you there is many, many, many women, probably even close to you, going through the same thing. So be open and not be afraid and not be ashamed. And if you find someone who is going to shame you or be mean, get rid of them. They don't need to be in your life. I don't care how
Totally.
long you've known them. They are toxic. Just from
Yeah.
that little bit, they're toxic. So find your group, find your community, and don't be ashamed or afraid because we're all going through it. There's so many struggles. And do your best to utilize whatever resources you have. So like I said, going to lactation, which I ended up finding out about torticollis, and then I ended up getting my daughter in and my son in physio, which ended up also getting my daughter in
Osteopath.
Yeah, ended up going there, and it's like I'm taking the advice, and I'm taking all those things that are around me. Don't feel like if I'm accepting help that I'm not good enough or I'm not strong enough,
That's right.
because I have a massive village and I couldn't do it without them.
Yeah.
Oh, love that.
Yeah.
Love that. It's a great way to end it off.
Yeah. So thank you so much,
Thank you
Michelle.
so much.
No problem.
Yeah, I
Thank
love
you.
this. And obviously, thank you for being open and allowing other people to do the exact same thing through your example. So thank you.
No problem.
You're right. All right, guys, we are heading out. Bye.
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 Bye, guys. Love you.